Yo, Natsu here. Back again for part 2 of What If Deku Had a Dragon Core. In the last part, I ended it, well, roughly, let's just say, because I had multiple things that happened during the time that I was recording. Example, me actually saying 8 instead of 9, which I rewatched the video and saw that yes, I had made the mistake. I'm happy that I did the correction later on. As well as sorry about the part with me and talking about the going to buy chips for a bit. That was, well, literally because still even now, my mind is nowhere near in the right state of mind. But I need to do videos because it helps me calm down, but I know that sometimes it can also annoy me, so yeah. Anyway, let's get to this video. In the last part, when Deku was about to go to UA for the entrance exam, I had explained that someone in the school, to be precise, it's between Class 1A and Class 1B that I made the choice, actually doing it with someone else, Grateful Buster, which hasn't been on YouTube much, and on Discord doesn't talk anymore. But we're still texting each other, and I asked him and someone else, and in the end it ended up falling on a single person from Class 1A. Since yes, it could have been from either 1A or 1B, basically bringing someone from 1B to Class 1A, if it ended up in Class 1B, which yes, minute I would have been switched if that happened. But he's still in Class 1A, which I don't know if I should be happy or sad about. So let's just pass over that. Obviously, it cannot be Bakugo, since he still has his own quirk, so yeah, that wouldn't have been that much of a surprise if it was him. Since, oh yeah, the one person who's supposed to have the explosion quirk doesn't show it anywhere. And he's not bullying Deku for some reason. Yeah, that's what would have happened, because Deku wouldn't be able to be bullied by Bakugo if Bakugo didn't have a quirk. So, obviously, it could not be him. So yeah, now, I knew it since before the series started. That's one of the rare things that I actually decided way earlier. Actually, the Dragon Core What If, had been made by me a few days earlier, with only 3 things that I actually tried to make, which was someone who would get one for all, a few things that will happen later on, in particular, what Deku would get from the Dragon Core, to be precise, though not the powers of different dragons. That was decided in Discord. But yeah, basically a few things were decided beforehand, but really not a lot. So yeah, let's start this. Deku arrives at UA for, the entrance exam. So, he enters school without having any problems of him falling, or anyone else for that matter, so he doesn't meet Ochako yet. And no, she doesn't have it, because in 2 of my other what ifs recently, not recently, but The other one I was doing right before, she has it, and another one I made not long ago, which aren't from the two others that I made not long ago, but way before that, she also has it. So, meh, I decided to make sure it wasn't her. So, basically, he simply goes for the written part of the exam, which he aced. Since, thanks to having a dragon body, his brain can absorb information way easier now. Basically, since he has the brain of a dragon, any information he hears, anything that he learns, is added into his mind as if it was a databank. Example, the internet, where the moment something enters it, there's literally no way it's coming out. Not even someone with an erasing, with the ability to erase, memories, could even do anything to Deku for that part. So impossible for him to forget something, which means he learns a lot faster. Meaning, obviously, that anything he learned is basically inside his memory and can be accessed on the fly. Also, thanks to having a dragon brain, kind of, he can also think faster than most. So, obviously it's not like, I make a second become an hour. Nah, he just thinks faster, but time doesn't stop or slow down. So, obviously, Deku aces it, then goes to sit down for the robots presentation. Except for the outburst of Ida, nothing else really changes other than Bakugo and Deku not actually yelling at each other. Well, it was more of Bakugo just yelling at Deku for no reason. But it didn't happen in this one since they are friends. They go to their respective cities, with once again no outbursts from Ida or anyone, since Deku or Ochako won't actually see the other one, since they didn't meet yet. And then the countdown starts going. 3, 2, 1. The moment it opens, everyone just see two things. First, they feel one thing and see another one. First, what they see is basically someone jumping in front, which surprised everyone. And then simply a purple flash and then an explosion. Basically, Deku just suddenly jumping and making his plasma blast, which destroyed a few robots. Quite easily, I might say. Which he then just kept running. People basically started to go and destroy robots, Deku doing the same. And Deku actually doing a lot. First, just physically he's able to break them. Second, since he is able to control the size of his plasma blast and could make some that are basically just a spitful, so small amount that does a small explosion, he is able to save people who are further away by looking when he sees or hear them, basically just shooting an extremely small plasma blast, basically exploding a part of the robot, saving someone. Obviously, trying not to destroy them fully so that they can still move, so that the person can still have the points they should have. But Deku still gets point from that, which he doesn't know yet. And because of the amount that he does, the amount of destruction he causes, as well as the amount of enemy he kills, basically those give him a lot of hero points from destroying so many robots that, well, his point has to go up. And then you also have the second counter that increases simply because of every time Deku basically destroys or saves someone. Well, destroys something to save someone, or just saves them outright. Sorry if I sound out of breath, I am for some reason. And no, it's not COVID. It's literally that I'm cold as all fucks when it's not even that cold outside. For what people tell me. So right now, I'm basically just kind of breathing hardly. And I don't like it. Anyway, going back to the story. Deku is getting a good amount of points. Bakugo is as well, being a lot stronger since at 11, nearly 12, he was already as strong as he was when he just started UA. And he kept training. Basically meaning that Bakugo is massively stronger than them. Actually, by this point he can already fly using explosions. And yeah. Basically, he thinks that right now it's something he has over Deku, which will change in a bit. Well, not really in a bit, but it will change soon. Since Deku has powers that are dragon-like, well, Bakugo knows that since his body did change and keep changing, since, yeah, Deku still unlocks new abilities over time, both by training and simply from his body finally reaching a certain point where he's able to use it. Example, the moment he finished transforming, he wasn't able to do Plasma Blast yet. As well as he wasn't able to actually absorb energy like lightning, another thing from his body. And basically they came in later. So, obviously what this means is he's still growing. Stronger. Better. So, yeah. Basically what it means right now is that he is nowhere near the entire amount he can be. I'm both telling you this, and this is also what they think. Or no, I should say. And they're pretty much all sure that Deku will get wings at one point. Since dragons can fly normally. And yeah, he's either just going to be suddenly able to fly like a Chinese, or I should say Asian dragon, which are long and don't have wing but can still fly. Shenron comes to mind as an example. Or he might be an Eastern type of dragon, which once again doesn't have wing. And then you have the other type of dragon, which, how do they call it? Well, dragons that are mostly in the... Hey, I'm having trouble. I literally checked all of that before leaving to do this video. Anyway, basically, in one part of the world, dragons are more long and don't have wings to fly, they just fly. While in another part of the world, dragons are mostly either quadrupedal creatures with 2 wings in the back, or something in the like. So, yeah. Obviously, there are some types of dragons that don't fly, but nah. And anyway, I already told you, Deku is going to get wings, so it doesn't really matter. The one thing that will matter is this, the zero pointer. It's actually starting to come out. Everyone starts running, Deku thinking he doesn't need to destroy it, until he hears a small whimper. That is before Ochako even screams for help, and it's basically the moment she has her leg crushed. Deku basically hears it, turns around and sees her, and starts going before she even screams help. When she does scream help and everyone turns around, they basically all just see two things. First, massive explosion happening on the robot. Basically, Deku sending 5 blasts consecutively at maximum power that he can do right now, which did a lot of damage to the exterior. And then Deku doing something that he had never done before, which was another type of blast that actually froze a bit of the robots. Basically, debris were falling. Deku wanted to stop them, only thought of his breath to go get there fast enough, and basically instead of a purplish glow, it was actually more bluish. And when it exploded, touching, well, the debris, it basically made a big ice amount that basically grabbed onto, well, nearly everything around, and exploding towards the robot, basically not touching Ochako and saving her. Deku had done this for the first time. Yeah, this is something I came up earlier, since I did say in the last part that that I wanted 3 types of dragon for draconic powers for Deku, and this is one of those that I finally came up with, because yes, I finally found, well, 2 out of the 3 I was missing. So, Ice-type dragon is one of those. Because, yeah, the dragon that Deku had his bead, well, gained the bead from, was a dragon that basically had 5 other types of dragon DNA inside of it. So, massively powerful. Let's just say it like that. So, basically, when that happened, obviously the robot was stopped. The teachers were just looking dumbfounded from the camera room. Every student just, well, were nearly on the ground. In particular, Ida, who was just like, he could do that as well? With Ochako just in amazement. Deku finally arriving to help her, since yes, he's fast, but without wings he isn't as fast as he could be. So, yeah, basically, he was able to get to her, take the rubbles off of her, and basically started bringing her towards the exit. When Recovery Girl arrived, first thing she said was that, well, boy, you made a lot of commotion there. You could have said beforehand that you could also shoot out ice. With her then starting to go and heal Ochako, before Deku suddenly just says that he didn't know he could do that. With a few people, even Ochako, kind of just looking at him like, wait, you used that on the spot? Basically just being, well, frightened at that point. Mostly Ochako, because that means it could have touched her. Or killed her as well. Deku basically said that he didn't even want to use it. He just wanted to stop the rubble from falling. And it did stop it, so kind of a win. Though he was also frightened the moment it happened, because that would be bad if he killed someone. Oh god, poor summer child. Sorry about that. But yeah, basically, Recovery Girl finished helping everyone, and basically said that she has to go for the other cities now. Then said to Deku that he's pretty much guaranteed to get in school before leaving. Ochako basically thanks Deku, asking for his name, being Izuku Midoriya. Also, I will keep calling him Deku, even though the new nickname that Bakugo was giving him, funny enough, was Scaly, just because they all know he has scales but aren't being shown. So basically, yeah, that will be his nickname, or hero name, I should say. The Dragon Hero Scales. Yeah, I'm not going to use Scaly as his hero name. It's just a nickname from Bakugo. But still, he still used it kind of for his hero name. Obviously, it sounds more like a snake or a reptile, but dragon is a type of reptile, so it works. Basically, he presented himself as Izuku Midoriya, obviously. And after a bit, they basically went back home. Deku, when his letter arrived, actually scored the highest, being almost at All Might's level. So basically, being at around 20 points from All Might's record, which was huge from what I remember. So yeah, Deku basically went hard. Damn, I'm having trouble speaking. Anyway, basically, they go back to school for the first day, with Deku watching the class, basically being the last to arrive, nearly just before Aizawa, and actually seeing Ochako, Bakugo, a weird kid with balls on his head, a girl with earphone jacks on her ears, a girl that seems a bit frog-like, a guy with multiple arms, a red-haired kid, a blonde-haired kid, a guy with half red, half white hair, and a few other peoples. Then he basically just saw, oh, there's also clothes just floating there. Which is a person. Which Deku actually, funny enough, is able to kind of see the outline of her body. Which is why he basically just asks, well, basically going towards Bakugo, says it, trying to make it quietly, but accidentally saying it a bit too, highly. Is she completely invisible, or no. Can you also see the outline of that girl, or is she completely invisible? Which made a few people just look at him a bit crazily, with Bakugo saying she's completely invisible. You dragon freak. Basically because, Deku, having a way too strong senses, who nearly always has things plugging his ears because of his increased hearing, he does take them out sometimes, example during the entrance exam. But right now they're still in. with Toru actually asking if he can truly see her outline. With Deku saying that, yeah, he can. And her basically saying that, well, nobody was actually able to see her for extremely long. Well, ever, if I remember correctly. And basically saying that, well, it's actually incredible and funny and nice to actually have someone able to see her. Which, yes, will come in later to be something embarrassing for a few times. But, yeah, at some point Deku will be able to see her fully without any problems, seeing through her invisibility. That's a spoiler, but that's basically how good his eyes are going to be. Basically, every day his body turns more and more towards dragon-like, though he will keep a humanoid appearance most of the time. So yeah, I'm putting it here right now instead of just later basically being like, oh yeah, and here's her costume with Deku able to see her. So that I don't just kind of pop it out of nowhere. This is something he can do. Just like all full dragons would still be able to see her. Well, kind of. Anyway, Deku basically starts to hear Aizawa coming, saying that someone's coming. Basically everyone sits down. And Aizawa basically enters the class, sees everyone sitting, and says it's nice that everyone knows how to stay quiet. He basically says that he's going to make a test, which Ochako then says weren't they supposed to go to the presentation, with Aizawa saying that no, they weren't going there, he's the one who decides what they do. Everyone basically has to go prepare, which they do, and meet up back in the courtyard. Basically, when they get there, Aizawa says that 3 people did extremely well and had extremely high, point counts in the exam. He is going to let the lower of the 3 take center stage, and basically tells Ojiro, the tail guy, to come and throw the ball. Ojiro, without a tail, so yeah, basically he's the one who has one for all. Basically, he's the only one that I was trying to, ended up in the count. Since 3 people thinking, and basically all of us, the first thing we had said was, Mineta's out. Second thing we said was, Monoma is out. So yeah, those 2 are out. Then we saw Shinso as being someone who is needed for the story, for a specific thing. And then basically just kept removing people one by one from the top until we just had 1 person left, which was Ojiro. So yeah, the tail guy doesn't have a tail. What he has is one for all. Which, since we know from a young age, he was already doing, strengthening his body with martial arts and stuff like that, I'm pretty much ready to bet, and we were all actually ready to bet, that he would actually still be doing it even if he was quirkless. So, yeah. He was strong enough to hold one for all, kind of. Obviously, he wasn't Deku level from the start, but the 10 months of training started with him getting one for all, nearly blowing his arm off, and then training to learn to control One for All, and has a full cowling. Since obviously between someone who always did martial arts, and in this one who would push himself even further, on top of that, since without having his tail, he, had to prove himself as someone, more. So, he was pushing himself way further, making himself way stronger. So before even the training started, he was strong. So yeah, basically full cowling is basically the limit. In fact, he basically learned it nearly like a day or two before the entrance exam, so it's literally new to him. And since he had to train his body a lot more than, just like Deku, but was kind of limited by All Might being a very bad teacher, compared to Gran Torino, it basically took Ojiro, way too long to learn full calling. Still, over the moment that Ojiro was handed the ball, he basically started charging his, One for All, and threw the ball, which went at around, 600 meters. Since obviously Deku, it was just one finger charged with One for All and 100%, so it wasn't the full brunt of One for All as it could be. But Ojiro obviously doesn't use 100%, even though he uses it around his entire body, so obviously he is strong, but he wasn't able to get to 700. Then came in the explanation of every test, Ochako saying the same thing of it's going to be fun, making Aizawa says that the one who scores the lowest will be thrown out. And as much as I would love to throw out Mineta, I normally don't, so yeah, Mineta stays in. After, that happened, they basically started the other test. Bakugo, being able to fly, thanks to his explosions, had a big score. Deku, who had learned one or two tricks, wasn't able to actually fly, but sending a plasma blast under himself, and since his body actually absorbs most of the shock back in afterward, he is able to propulse himself quite far. Obviously not being infinite like Bakugo, but still going pretty far. Actually, him and Ojiro tied. Basically, Ojiro using, One for All, he pushed himself extremely far, with Deku basically reaching the same amount. After that is the speed test, which Deku physically is about 3/4 of Ida's speed right now. Will get better thanks to the next power-up, and thanks to his wings, he will get even faster later on. But yeah, basically right now he is around 3/4 of Ida's speed. So Ida was above him, but Ida was still a bit scared because of the speed Deku had. Like, oh frick, how fast is he? And since nearly everyone who was in that city, as well as every teacher who were looking at Deku, he still seemed to have some powers popping up from time to time. Obviously, in his papers, it says that his quirk actually appeared pretty late in his life. And basically, for a few days, 18 days to be exact, he was basically in a hospital bed with his body destroying itself to basically turn, well, everything on. And since even Deku thinks it's a quirk, that's there. Basically, you have everything else that happens. Deku nearly breaking the grip machine, which basically the only reason he was able to do that is because of the muscle, skin, and everything else of a dragon that are still developing in his body. He is really freaking strong. So, yeah. And he will get stronger. Since obviously Deku will get the full force of a full dragon. Though it will take a while and it will be long. Sorry about that. So, at the last test, the ball throw, Aizawa actually wanted to test one thing out. Which he basically did it to every student. Just to make it look like it wasn't Deku specifically he was targeting for that. And basically what he wanted to see was Deku's own strength without his quirk being activated. Though knowing that his quirk basically modified his entire body for 18 days consecutively, he doesn't know if his body is just like that. Oh god, a squirrel got eviscerated. Ooh, and it smells. Sorry about that. There was a squirrel in the middle of the road. Well, not really in the middle, nearly exactly next to me where I'm walking on the side of the road. And oh boy, it smelled. Anyway, going back, basically at the ball throw, obviously he didn't do it to Ojiro at first, but he did ask Ojiro to throw the ball once again, basically asking him to go further this time, well, to push his power more, because when the zero-pointer actually appeared, he did break his arm to defeat it. So, basically, the two things they want to know, well, basically, he was actually asked by Nezu to do this. They want to see the normal strength of those guys as well as their maximum. So this time, he basically didn't say something like, as long as you can move. He basically just said, go all out to all of them, even if it breaks your body. Basically saying that Recovery Girl will be able to heal them. Which Ojiro basically went to throw the ball. Aizawa activated his quirk, the ball didn't go far, and then Aizawa just marked its note and then just told him to grab the ball again and do it again. With everyone just kind of asking themselves what just happened. Basically that time, Ojiro breaking his arm, sending the ball way further, nearly twice as far. He didn't go at 100% to not cause permanent damage, which he was warned by All Might. So he only went 2 times further than what he had done previously, hoping to not destroy his body too much. Then, basically it was Baku, who once again his quirk didn't activate. Then he threw the ball with his quirk. Then came basically everyone else, until Deku came up. Basically, by this point, everyone knew that, Aizawa was basically stopping her quirk for the most that he can do. so that we can't use them. Except, obviously, for those that their quirk don't actually affect their body, or could affect their throw strength. Or Momo, since she just makes a cannon and throws it like that. So yeah, obviously, those are the outliers. So Deku was basically thinking, what would happen if he tries to, block my quirk? Basically, while Deku was thinking of that, he started to ready his arm at full strength, as well as preparing 5 Plasma Blasts, even though he can do more at once, basically thinking his accuracy would fail after that. Throwing it really far, as I was trying to block Deku's quirk, with Deku looking towards, the ball and actually throwing his 5 Plasma Blast, which they weren't massive ones, obviously. He doesn't want to blow up the ball. And basically shoots 5 of them and basically hits the ball 5 times, sending it way further. Nearly 3 times his previous record. Which, by that, I mean the one in the anime. So, yeah, 2 kilometers, since they are counted in meters, 2,100 meters, which is huge. And then Deku, just kind of realizing that his quirk didn't stop, and asked Aizawa why he didn't stop his quirk. Aizawa saying that he tried. And then Deku just thinking to himself and saying, maybe because my body literally has been modified to that point. Basically, kind of thinking that, my quirk was to transform my body. Now my body is transformed, and this is a normal state. So maybe you cannot stop my quirk. Basically saying it out loud, basically mumbling the entire time for nearly 2 minutes. Aizawa hearing most of it and just thinking that, it's true that with what we saw in your documents, yeah, it probably goes around something like that. Basically telling Deku to not use the Plasma Blast this time, to act as if he wasn't able to use his quirk, and Deku doing that, which got him way lower. Basically, everyone was just pretty much, everyone was pretty much the same strength, except for 3 people. That's pretty much it. Basically, he didn't throw out anyone. Mostly after how impressed he was from Deku, he didn't actually have the mind to think about expelling anyone. He was mostly just thinking to himself. Because that kid is a monster in every sense of the word. That's how he sees it. Though he doesn't know how true that is yet. And he will regret that later. Partially. So, everyone goes back to class, normal classes happen, and the next day it's the hero versus villain from All Might's class. Which, it's basically, for 2 of them, a one-sided massacre. No joke. For Deku against Bakugo, Bakugo basically went to try and fight him in the halls, thinking that Deku would do that, while Deku had actually started, clawing his way up the side of the building. During that time, Ida was all doing his same type of evil monologue, which they arrived basically halfway there. Well, halfway while he was doing it, before he actually hid any object from the room. Basically, they blew up the window. Ida was kind of startled by that, with Deku basically tackling him and telling Ochako to grab the bomb. The moment that happened, Bakugo basically just heard that it was over, Deku's team win, and Bakugo just got angry at that because, oh, come on! Like, he wasn't angry because Deku beated him. He was angry because Deku just skipped the fight entirely. The second group that actually does a massacre, well, I think if I remember correctly, Toru and Ojiro were together against Ida, which once again was a one-sided massacre, but this time, with Ojiro having won for all, the ice was placed. He broke all of that ice and basically tried to go fight Todoroki and whoever else he was with, since I don't actually remember that, and basically just froze Ojiro before passing through the bomb and then unfreezing everything. So, yeah, one-sided massacre. Though this one was a bit better than in the anime, but still fell flat. Everyone else was basically just the same, for obvious reasons. And so we end that. Yeah, if you wanted more on that part, thinking, oh, Deku versus Bakugo would be amazing. Nearly every week or so since Deku got his powers, he's been fighting with Bakugo. And more over time, as Deku got stronger and his power got better, and the moment he actually got these scales that actually absorb energy and stuff, Bakugo was basically outmatched in everything. Like, Bakugo had zero way of fighting Deku at that point. So basically, yeah, no matter what, the fight would have ended with Bakugo being on the ground, and by this point, even more, Bakugo would have probably ended up frozen, partially. So, yeah, that's pretty much scary. For the class president episode, pretty much everything happens nearly the exact same, except with Bakugo being a bit less, well, having his head all the way up his ass. But, except that, it's pretty much the same with Ida being the one who gets class president. So, once again, that's a part that doesn't actually matter too much. Oh, freaking hell. Anyway, I told my mom I was coming back after 9. So, anyway, in a bit I'm actually going to turn back now. But, yeah, no. Basically, what's happening, well, next, is the USJ. But before that, it's the talk they had before getting there. Which, let's be frank, Ojiro basically said the excuse of, oh yeah, I was quirkless, I trained, and over my time of training, I unlocked this power, which means I wasn't quirkless, it's just that I wasn't strong enough to do it yet. Then saying that even though he had trained his entire life in martial arts, which basically made it look as if his quirk basically just didn't want to show up. And that now that his body is this strong, it's as if the quirk, who basically is still lying, who had been developing in his body all this time and accumulating strength, was now too strong for his body to actually deal with. And hoping that he can actually catch up so that his body doesn't break while using it, because it would be annoying. So, after that, the question ended up on Deku for his quirk, with Bakugo saying that the story isn't all that pretty. Basically, a few people asking why. Basically saying that, well, if you want the short version, basically his power is like dragons. And over time, he just gets more and more capacities. Example, in the entrance exam, where he got ice powers. Then basically putting his hand on Deku, well, next to Deku's face, Deku closing his eyes, and Bakugo making an explosion. Aizo was seeing that and starting to scream, with Deku saying it's okay. Basically saying that it was just to prove something. Basically that his body is able to absorb different types of energy, and that doing this basically doesn't hurt him at all. Which, Aizawa then says that it's still not good to do that. Bakugo saying sorry, but that it's basically the only way he could show it easily. With Deku basically hitting him on the shoulder, saying that you could have just explained it. Well, he could have just explained it. Then Deku basically says that, but yeah, that's basically the short end of it. Scales on my body, claws, ability to breed different elements, as well as having all of my senses so strong that I'm basically beast. And then basically explained that when he was young, basically he didn't have a quirk. He basically trained until at one point his body simply started to burn, which was when his quirk started to, embody itself, breaking Deku's entire body. His blood, DNA, from his DNA all the way to his blood, cells, and basically everything in his body, changing while hurting like hell. 18 days of gruesome pain, body deformation, until while he wasn't able to sleep at all, feeling as if he was falling unconscious, he was going to die. And that when it was finally over, his DNA wasn't even resembling human anymore, and having many more genes in his DNA, as if he wasn't human anymore, or even something from Earth. Well, in reality, what's happening is that those extra genes are basically dragon genes that have been added to his own DNA. And dragons, whose body basically did that, absorb, from the parent they took more than half of the DNA from both parents, and over time during their lifespan was expelling the less needed ones. And basically, it's the exact same thing happening there, except that Deku got all of the genes from his human half and from the dragon half, And now it's basically just kind of all staying there, where it won't actually change. He's going to stay a half human, half dragon, with all of the genes of both. Which is why he's going to be extremely powerful, but also have a few other things going on. Though since the DNA matches perfectly and is able to work like that, and since the dragon DNA is made to have more than human DNA, well, Deku could still have kids that are fully functional. Example, the animals in this story are able to still reproduce even if they were to absorb a dragon core. Which means same thing could happen to humans, basically. So no problems there. Also, on the first video, someone asked for the ship, and basically I already gave all of the information you would need for that. So, yeah, good luck! Because I did give information for multiple ships, actually, already. Though there was another misleading one I was supposed to put in, that I took out. Simply because that one would have just made way too many mixes. So, yeah. Anyway. Basically, people ask Deku if it still hurts, which Deku says that from time to time when he sleeps, he does wake up from having some pains around his body, but normally they don't end up being new powers or anything like that. It's literally just his body keeping, well, still changing. So, yeah, from time to time he just has to wake up. Then he also says that he needs to eat a huge amount, with someone saying that, yeah, they saw that at the cafeteria, that he basically ate nearly his entire body weight in food, well, body mass in food, and was almost ready to go back. And then saying that, well, where he lives, there is, well, he found a rabbit with a quirk that allows it to multiply. And basically, him and everyone else in his building basically eat from those from time to time. And since they only need water to duplicate, and then basically if they are hungry, they just duplicate and eat each other, it's basically just kind of buy water, or give them water, and you have near unlimited food. Basically, Aizawa was saying that, well, obviously, if you eat like 10 person, that would be the best way to get food. And then asked Deku where he got the rabbit, with Deku saying that, well, since his power was quite destructive, even if he wasn't using his breath attacks and stuff, from time to time he went and trained in parks or woods, and at one point he actually found one of those. Though he did get a permit later to actually keep those rabbits. And yeah. In fact, from time to time, his mother sells some on the side. Basically just rabbit meat, not the rabbits themselves. To get extra money, exactly because Deku eats way too much. Which Aizawa basically tells him that, yeah, that's understandable, but is it even legal? With Deku saying that, well, from what he understood, yes. But anyway. Then basically Deku just looks around. Oh yeah, also, remember this, Deku is not a dragon slayer. So he doesn't have weakness in, well, vehicles. Like, example, Lightning Dragon Deku, who would have. So, yeah, he is able to stay in vehicles without having any problems. Yes, it does bug him because of his increased senses, but it's not to the point of Dragon Slayer, so he can still stay there. Sorry about that. He can still be in them, it's just that from time to time he gets a bit dizzy. Which is no problem for him, let's just say it like that. It's just bugging at times. So, they arrive at the USJ, they start to enter, and Deku can already see a black dot in the middle. And basically just says, everyone back away. Aizawa asking him what he means until the black dot starts to grow. Basically Aizawa telling everyone to back away, but the door closing in their face. Literally. Instead of them being near the stairs, where they would basically have way too much to do before getting to the door, they were right next to it. So right now, they're stuck at the door, with the villains starting to come out. Aizawa telling 13 to protect the students. The students starting to open the door. Obviously, having a bit more of an easy time, thanks to Bakugo trying to blow it up, which does partially work. Deku trying to do 3 Plasma Blast, which do partially work, and finally to finish the hole, having Ojiro basically punch where they damaged and open it, allowing people to leave. Kurogiri trying to stop them, with Deku basically throwing an ice blast at them, well, at Kurogiri, which miraculously explodes before touching Kurogiri. Basically, the moment space got distorted, the blast exploded, basically grabbing all of Kurogiri and saving nearly every student. Then Shigaraki told the Nomu to go. Deku heard it and tried to go to stop the Nomu, basically to let everyone go. Which Aizawa basically just tried to attack the Nomu as well, which didn't work too well. Kurogiri basically getting out of the ice and basically teleporting the Nomu to the students, where Deku basically blasting it with a full power Plasma Blast and doing nearly nothing to it. Well, from what he saw, because of the smoke. But he did do a lot of damage. It's just that the Nomu healed way too fast. So, yikes. Deku basically was almost stopped by 13 until Deku basically got smashed by the Nomu, with the Nomu going straight for Deku now, basically not listening to what Shigaraki was saying specifically, and just going for Deku. Which, for Deku, is scary because his skills do protect him from a lot of damage, but what is absorbed by his body is basically more of energy, not direct force. So, yeah, his skills tank a lot of damage, but Deku was still thrown around pretty far, with the Nomu basically jumping towards him. Ida already going towards school to basically call in the teachers, but still, basically Ojiro trying to go to help Deku since basically they heard Shigaraki saying that they made a monster to beat All Might. So him being, All Might's, successor, basically wanted to try and help. So now you have two kids who have around the same amount of strength if you count just normal strength. And so basically, if Ojiro uses his full power without breaking himself, and Deku just goes normally, they have around the same amount of power, which is nowhere near what they need to destroy the Nomu. So, yeah, basically, it's more or less of Deku tanking hits, while they both try to attack the Nomu, with the teachers just freaking out. Aiza was still fighting, but seeing that they're in trouble, trying most of the time to, well, erase the Nomu's quirk, which does help, but since he is stopped by nearly every other villain around him, it doesn't last too long. Basically, at one point, Deku basically grabs, well, Ojiro, seeing that the Nomu is about to punch them. He is about to throw them backward until he hears Shigaraki basically saying now, with Kurogiri going toward, well, behind them, with Deku basically throwing Ojiro in the air, because of that, towards the wall, before tanking another hit from the Nomu, with Deku basically being sent straight to the portal and smashing down closer to Shigaraki, who is ready to disintegrate. Basically seeing Deku as a bigger enemy than the other kid, since Deku is at least able to damage the Nomu. The Nomu basically coming back afterward from Shigaraki telling the Nomu to come back. Aizawa being scared because now they could kill Deku. But something happens when the Nomu tries to punch Deku one last time. Deku's arm, he stops the Nomu. If the fist of the Nomu basically crashes into an open hand, which is completely black, of pure black scales, with lightning looking thing going over it. The Nomu then tries to punch with his other arm, which then gets blown up by a lightning looking, well, blast. This is the third type of dragon Deku gets his power type. Let's just say it like that. One of the movies in the Godzilla series has a three-headed dragon. This is one of the proposition that someone gave me. Obviously, Deku won't be as strong as Ghidorah itself, but he has all of the same power types. So, nuclear blast from its mouth, nuclear absorption, extreme regeneration, and stuff like that are all in Deku's capacity. And right now, the dragon soul inside of Deku, who was trying to absorb Deku's soul, was finally able to temporarily take control. And it's mad because the vessel that seems to be perfect for him is being damaged by that thing. The Nomu is not in a great position right now, because suddenly a massive punch is sent directly through it, with basically every power that are in Deku's disposition right now, which basically means the dragon isn't as strong as it could be, but has a massive amount of energy compared to what Deku has. Basically compared to Deku, who only has his normal energy and basically only uses the dragon's core's energy when he does blast, the dragon right now is basically using all of that energy near instantly to boost its body. And right now, everyone can basically just see one thing. Deku, having all of his body turned black, 2 wings on its back, 6 horn-like protrusion coming out of Deku's head towards the back, which are kind of able to move. Basically think the Night Fury's ears, but made instead like a horn. So they're basically able to kind of move, but they're not able to bend. It's more like just movement up, down, sideways, and stuff like that. And basically, it's demolishing the Nomu. Having energy coursing all around its body, punching the Nomu or sending blast on it, having nearly every villain just kind of trying to run away, Shigaraki seeing that the Nomu is not going to make it, basically telling Kurogiri that they're going away, until they see one thing: Deku ripping off the Nomu's head, killing it, and then starts eating it like a beast, as if he was a wild animal feasting on its prey. With everyone actually scared right now, Aizawa tried to go towards Deku, which Deku basically looked at him and tried to attack with a blast. But Deku's soul was able to take control back again, and basically shot the blast in another direction while taking control, basically passing out afterward. Deku was partially conscious for the entire process, but wasn't able to understand the power that was used or how it was being used. He didn't even understand that someone else was in control of the body. All he was seeing was basically that his body was destroying the Nomu, and then started eating it. Which is when the body turned towards Aizawa, Deku seeing Aizawa, and then just being able to take control right before the shot. And then passing out, with the dragon thinking that this boy's mind is strong. He needs to absorb that soul, and fast. During that time, something else, somewhere else, actually got awoken. So, basically, about 2 or 3 days later, Deku actually woke up, with his hairs actually being different than before. The color, to be precise. They have turned perfectly black with strand of gold in them. Basically the colors of a Night Fury and of, well, Ghidorah. Though they can see that other hairs are lighter in color, as if they were, well, not colored yet, which are actually the colors of the other powers Deku will unlock, which he hasn't unlocked completely yet. So yes, the ice power will be shown in his hair, since basically it's not going to be a spoiler anymore. His hair will have 5 colors, for all 5 of the dragon type powers he controls. Which is going to be scary for most, because he is going to be known as the 5 color scales. Basically a nickname given to him by different people, instead of just using his normal name, which is going to be Scales. Since yes, most of the time when he does take out his scales, they are going to be black, but he can make them with different colors. Basically every colors from the dragons he has, well, dragon powers he has. But anyway, Deku basically woke up with Aizawa being in the room. He knows his power is useless against Deku, since his power literally didn't stop when he tried to stop him. Well, no. Basically, he was trying to get in contact with Deku. Deku turned around. Aizawa tried to use his power, and then Deku basically shot away and passed out, making him and nearly everyone else think that he was the one who basically stopped Deku's powers. So they're thinking he's the only thing that could stop him, as well as having another few heroes close for if Deku goes on a rampage when he wakes up, which luckily didn't happen. His mother was told not to come for if something happened. She was then called for her to come, and basically they explained the situation to Deku. His outburst, the amount of damage he done, the amount of damage he did, and then how he ate nearly half of the Nomu in a few minutes before Aizawa was able to stop him. Deku basically just said he was sorry, he didn't want to hurt anyone, but suddenly it was as if all of that rage inside of him that he was building up during the fight just took control, and that then all of his instinct were doing the fighting. He was able to see what was happening, but he wasn't able to feel anything, hear anything, smell anything, or any other thing. He was only able to see what was going on through his own eyes. And even then, it was as if he wasn't even the one in control, and as if he was just looking through a screen at what was going on. Basically, scaring a few people, because, literally, it's basically a berserker state where you have no control over your power. And seeing as how your power is strong, basically them explaining that the moment it was over, they basically saw his body, every damage that he had, heal in moments from having the Ghidorah aspect of his powers awaken nearly all at once, though nowhere near as powerful. Also, Deku cannot yet bathe his entire body into in energy compared to what the dragon is able to do, though he has unlocked the regeneration and the, nuclear blast. Though it also made something else, which is that now he eats a lot more. Basically, from having his nuclear powers activated, now his body is basically a nuclear reactor that needs basically a near constant stream of stuff being intake. So, yeah. Basically, just think the Hulk, who basically, if he is transformed, needs to eat way too much. It's just Deku doing that constantly, instead of actually stopping eating when Hulk turns back into Banner. So yeah, this is basically Deku being scary as all hell. Basically, that night, Deku ran away from school, with nobody actually being able to stop him. First thing that happened was that he actually activated his black scales on his body, which made him extremely hard to find in the dark. Though his wings weren't out, since he doesn't have control over that yet, but Deku ran away. And he ran away fast. Basically, right now, though his body is missing a lot of energy, he is able to run normally. And basically, he just ran away as far as he could, basically out of civilization temporarily. Basically, he went to sleep, then tried to hunt something, until a voice started to call him. small one. Deku not actually thinking, just thinking it's a voice in his head, until he was basically called once again, this time knowing that it wasn't from his head, and a lot stronger, small one, scaring Deku's soul nearly out of him, with Deku turning around and only seeing two things, well, in the forest. A massive shadow who seemed to glow green in some spots. This is a dragon. Or to be precise, someone who, like Deku, found a dragon core, tried to absorb it, without knowing it, but compared to Deku, who was able to take on the pain, well, no, that person was also able to take on the pain, though compared to Deku, his transformation was only for about 4 days, so basically from the lowest power of dragon, but he wasn't able to resist something else. The dragon soul eating his soul, which Deku is actually able to fight unconsciously. Basically, Deku's mind and soul being so strong, basically his willpower having been trained to a point where the dragon in him has trouble even doing a dent on his soul. Basically, Deku not even knowing that dragon was trying to eat his soul, and the only moment the dragon was able to do anything was when Deku actually passed out. Compared to Deku though, that guy wasn't able to fight back, and the dragon was able to take control and basically make the body go back to a full dragon. Though those dragons do go back to human form from time to time, if they aren't able to find enough power and nutrients to feed their giant body. So, basically, Deku saw a dragon, basically didn't know who it was, basically thinking that it was someone else with a dragon quirk, asking who it was, with, well, the dragon having the memory of the guy he took control over, basically saying that his name is Ravak. He is a dead dragon, or at least that's what his quirk is. And then, as Deku, do you feel like your soul is aching? Which Deku doesn't understand the question, with the dragon saying, you have a dragon quirk, don't you? With Deku kind of saying yes, with the dragon then telling him that recently you lost control, didn't you? With Deku kind of just sitting down and saying that, yeah, he could have killed someone who basically was his teacher. Basically, Deku thinks he's running away from school right now and won't go back. But obviously he will. But anyway, basically the dragon says that he knows what the problem is. And then says that the problem is the dragon soul inside of his quirk. Or by this point, inside of his body. Deku asking what he means. With the dragon saying that long ago, dragons did exist. Though they were the only mythical creature that did exist. Any other legend is actually false. And then basically explains that when a dragon dies, its soul simply starts roaming the world, lying again. Basically, he's telling truth and lies together to basically make it look like a quirk. And basically starts explaining that those souls basically roam the world until they find people who are actually able to take those souls. And for literally millions of years, every soul was roaming the world, and most of them were only able to take control of animals, which created the animals that people call quirked animals. When humans started getting quirks, naturally, some people started to get quirks with dragon properties, saying that not all of them did get a dragon soul, but those that did, like him, can have the dragon try to eat their soul to take over the body. And then saying that, unfortunately for the host of that body, it happened unconsciously, scaring Deku a bit, and then the dragon saying that it wasn't his fault, though. After roaming for so long, the moment they actually get in contact with a, suitable host or body, even if they are the purer of dragons, their soul won't actually wake up until the body is taken over. For him, an example, he only woke up when the body he is in right now actually had his soul absorbed by his own. And then says that if the person who had this body originally had a strong enough soul, the soul of the dragon would have been absorbed instead, giving that person all of the powers instead. And then saying to Deku that he, on the other hand, pointing to Deku, is different. And then saying that Deku's dragon soul woke up while trying to eat Deku, and that this dragon he has inside of him is actively trying to kill him. And then basically saying that he knew that dragon. He was one of the most powerful dragons that existed, either from the ancients or from the newer ones before all dragon went extinct. Sorry for the water sounds, I'm literally having waves right next to me. But yeah, basically saying that Deku's dragon soul inside of him is from one of the strongest dragons that ever existed, no matter which era of dragon it came from. He was just one of the most powerful. And that right now, that dragon is trying to kill Deku. Deku not believing it fully at first, until the dragon said that he knows that dragon. In fact, the only reason he died was because of that dragon. The 5-powered dragon that Deku is actually housing. And if Deku wants to survive, he will have to absorb that soul. Basically telling Deku that all dragons had multiple powers. One in particular allowed them to absorb souls of other creatures they killed. And right now, every soul that Deku, put an end to, are in his body. And that dragon is trying to feed off of those, while also trying to feed off of his Deku's soul. Basically telling Deku that if he wants to survive, he will need to listen to him. Deku asking what's the catch, with the dragon smiling and saying, "That boy." and then saying that he only wants a favor. A tiny little favor that doesn't actually bother anyone. Temporarily, once Deku's dragon soul has been absorbed, all the dragon wants is to stay in Deku's body temporarily without taking control, except once, before leaving the body and going back on his own. Basically saying that right now he doesn't have enough energy to do anything by himself. And that unless he is in a smaller body, he won't be able to eat enough to make himself strong enough to do anything. All he can do right now is actually house himself into the body of someone else who has dragon powers. Deku reluctantly accepts, basically because since he woke up, he does feel as if his entire body was burning again, though in a different way. That's basically his soul being attacked by the dragon. And now until the sports festival, Deku has been trying to absorb the dragon's soul. Literally, the dragon is training Deku to be able to feel the souls around him and use those to power himself, as well as absorbing the souls that are not connected to a body anymore. Basically trying to help Deku absorb the soul of the extremely powerful dragon that is inside of him. Which basically 2 days before the sports festival, well, Deku is finally able to do. With the dragon cursing Deku, who is finally able to hear him, because the dragon is finally dying for good. Basically, the dragon inside of Deku saying that if only he wasn't as strong-willed, he could have taken this perfect body for him. The perfect housing place. After absorbing that dragon, though, Deku was able to see inside of his body, which a place I'm going to call the Soul Sea. Basically, this is where the soul is housed. Deku has his own soul inside of it. And inside of that, well, all around his own soul, there is the soul of every other thing he killed, which is mostly filled with rabbit souls. Funny enough. Basically, every time the rabbits duplicate, the soul is also duplicated. So every time Deku kills one of those, that soul is also added to his, or at least to his soul C. And basically now what he needs to do is eat all of those souls to leave it empty except for his soul, for the other dragon to actually enter it and stay there until the moment where Deku has to repay the favor for the other dragon, who is a dead dragon, like I said before. So a dragon who controls death. You might think, well, that sounds evil. Don't think like that. Since, just like humans, no matter how we look like, we could be extremely pure, extremely happy, and extremely good. Even if we look evil. Well, even if we look good, cute, or beautiful, I think I already said that one. Sorry about that. Basically, you could be one of the evilest person around. And that's something that I hate around here. Well, on our Earth. someone looks beautiful, commits a crime, and everyone thinks he's too beautiful to have committed the crime. Like, no, he committed it. Sorry about that, tangents. But the amount of stories that I heard of, oh, he's too beautiful to have done that. Oh, he's too cute to have done something. Oh, she's too cute to have tried to kill the guy. Like, beauty doesn't equal good. In fact, if the way we acted made our body look better or worse, it would actually be way better for our world, because we would know who to kill. Sorry for that one. But like, not kill everyone who's stupid or evil. Just remove the warning labels on everything. That will cause a lot of problems, most likely. But it will also help us teach dumb people to be more intelligent and kill everyone who basically makes human the dumbest thing around. Yes, it will most likely also kill many old people who are just unable to read. But sorry for the next thing I'm going to say, but when you are not useful to society anymore, and that you literally have no reason to live anymore, why are you still alive? Obviously not saying that for like, oh, you're 20 and you're not working. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like, oh, you're unable to work, you're unable to move even. But because your children want you to stay alive in a hospital bed doing nothing all day, they are forced to stay alive. Those people, if we remove them from life, sorry for that way I'm saying it, but basically, if we allowed them to leave when they want to leave, well, literally first, we would have more personnel for normal hospitals, where we could save lives, help people, and stuff like that, instead of having assholes just having their parents there so that they can get more money from the government. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, sorry about that one. I have way too much to... I have way too many emotions when I'm trying to block most of them when I'm at school or in public, because obviously I don't want to make people angry or mad or anything like that. But sometimes it just pops. And that's basically the reason why I don't want to be at school anymore, even less in the program I'm in right now, but just because I absolutely need to get money to live, as well as I need to get a job later on. I literally don't have a choice, because no matter what I do, I can't get a job normally. Anyway, going back to the story after that, again, I'm extremely sorry, it just comes out sometimes. When the bubble pops, it just pops. But yeah, basically, Deku absorbed many souls that are in his soul sea, in particular the Nomu. And now let me explain how soul absorption works. Firstly, when a dragon absorbs the soul of something it killed, what it gets is the amount of energy/power that was in the soul. So it doesn't get like the quirks of the person. It doesn't get that. I'm talking about pure energy and strength like that. So obviously Deku won't get the strength of the Nomu. Its shock absorption, its energy is all he gets. That can be sent around his body to make Deku stronger. Normally, when they do that, they can also get... Well, basically, they get energy from the willpower of a creature, from the energy itself from the soul, which basically gives power to the body, without counting, well, what it needs to survive, like intakes of energy. Another thing it gets is actually the knowledge and memories of the creature. But right now, Deku has the knowledge of the dragon that's been unlocked from absorbing its soul fully. But right now, it's way too much information and he needs to go through it slowly. Well, it's already all there, he just doesn't know it yet until he needs it. And basically, that gives him the exact same thing for every other soul he will absorb. He has their knowledge, but until he actually checks it, he doesn't actually knows it on his fingertip. So yeah, he got a huge amount of power from absorbing the Nomu from all of the energy that was in there. Obviously the memories were whack, so that was really uncomforting for Deku. The rabbits, well, what he got was mostly just small amount of energy for each of them. Oh yeah, another thing Deku gets from the souls is the lifespan that was in there. So, yeah, he already has the lifespan of a dragon. Or at least what a dragon normally has as a lifespan. And then you add all of the lifespans from every other thing he killed and absorb their souls. So yeah, Deku can live long as all hell right now. And fuck you. Sorry about that. Anyway, basically right now, Deku just kind of, well, simply put, lets the other dragon, the dead dragon, enter his soul sea while Deku goes back to school. So, basically, he comes back 2 days before the sports festival, basically going to his mom first, and then going to school, where, well, literally everyone, well, after his mom called back school to say that her son came back and he's ready to come back. Basically, when he arrived, nearly everyone was just on him to ask him what was going on. Basically, well, the first people who were asking him that were the teachers, because he was told to go to the principal's office, with Deku basically saying that he wanted to get, well, his body under control. So he was basically just training for the entire time. Which now he has his body under control. Basically, Nezu told him that it's good, because it could have been bad if, well, that happened again. And then told him that there was the sports festival arriving soon, and that Deku would have to participate. Basically telling him that anyway, there was 1 week off of school after the incident, and then 1 week where they were supposed to train all the time. So he didn't actually break anything. Basically, he just said that he could just pass it as them telling him to go train to not, well, kill anyone. So later, when he got back to class, a second wave of questions, since they were told that they don't know where Deku is. So, yeah, basically Deku just said that from what happened to him, he didn't want to hurt anyone, so he basically just went training. Then Thoru arrived and actually asked him if he was truly okay. With Deku actually looking at her and now being a lot more powerful and having a lot better senses, basically tells her she has beautiful eyes, with her just kind of blushing and asking him how much she can see, with him saying that, well, when she's this close, all he can see is her eyes. When she's further away, it's basically just he sees where her body is and kind of sees, well, as if it was blurry. But when she's close enough, her eyes are basically the only thing he can actually see. So basically right now, he passed from barely seeing the outline to kind of, well, literally right now, it's not like, oh, he sees exactly where she is with a blurry body. No, it's basically like when it's extremely hot outside and you see a bit of like blur further on the road from how the heat distorts the light. It's basically what he sees, except that when she's close enough, her eyes are basically the only thing he can see fully. Basically, the eyes is the window of the soul. So her eyes are the only thing he can see fully thanks to his soul abilities. If you understand what I mean. Basically, after that, he kind of just catches up on class stuff before the sports festival arrives, which I'm going to end it here. Hope you liked it, leave a like if you did, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. So, yeah, Natsu, out. And oh fucking hell, 1 hour